Hi, gun people. Man, this is a really interesting and important video. Um, I mean, it's just so complex and so many tentacles on this video. But I want to go over it. But before I start the video a little bit and go over a couple things, feel free to look it up. Um, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. But let's take a look at what a FISA 702 is. So here in CNN, they're talking, this is a while back, they're talking about how Obama doubled the amount of FISA requests on these 702s when he was in office. And it's kind of freaking spooky. I mean, I've never trusted a government. I think anytime you have too much government power and secret. FISA, remember, is a secret court with secret rulings, with secret warrants. FISA is probably the worst thing that came for Fourth Amendment protections. However, if you ask FBI, NSA, DEA, if you ask law enforcement, they think it's the greatest thing in the world. Why? Because it makes it easier for them to get information. Of course they're going to say it's vital. All right, let's listen to this a little bit.
Microsoft has just announced that it received at least 1,000 demands for surveillance information from the Obama administration in the first half of 2016. The company says that was double the number of requests it had gotten under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, during the previous period, and in the most in 5 years. It's not clear who was being targeted. Let's bring in...
Yeah, it is clear. They were targeting Trump and his campaign, and they were doing the dossier, and they were trying to use government power to spy on Americans, which is absolutely against the FISA. But if you look at the wording of FISA, it says you can't use FISA to intentionally spy on Americans. But if, and I think they go by the rule of two, if I call you, then they can go two people, any two people I call. If I call you and your brother, then they can get all the information on you, your brother, and anybody you contact. And then when they get the people you contacted, they can go two more people from that person. So it's like a Ponzi scheme, and pretty much they get everybody by doing one warrant. It's just outrageous.
CNN Money investigative reporter Jose Pagliari. And Jose, there's an actual established machine set up by the U.S. government to legally monitor Americans' communications. If the government makes this demand using a FISA court order, is Microsoft able or other...
Okay, so the machine they're talking about was back when PRISM came out. They caught a terrorist, and when they went to court, they wanted to know how they found out this information on the terrorist. Why do defense attorneys ask that? So they can educate their clients on how to avoid it. That's why some things you can testify that it's covered on the evidence codes, you can keep it secret. But if you're trying to get somebody for terrorists for life in prison, a lot of time the courts will say you ain't keeping nothing secret. When I testified as an expert for auto theft, under the evidence code, I did not have to explain how I knew the car was stolen, why I stopped it, etc. It gave auto theft investigators a lot more leeway to do illegal stuff, but it also gave them leeway to use their expertise on, was a VIN number tampered with, was the wrong license plate, was the first letter license plate, did the color match the license plate? When I ran a plate, it came back to 69, yet the tail lights were 67. So, and a lot of those things, if you start telling these people, then the crooks start modifying when they do these crimes. So the government has said, well, we're going to help cops. We don't want to, tie the hands of law enforcement. We're going to help them and let them keep some of their things secret. Well, the whole FISA court is secret. The judges are secret. The warrants are secret. How they get the information is secret. How they do everything is secret, and that's problems.
Are tech companies able to refuse to comply?
Well, Jake, they try to do that at times. So, for example, Yahoo tried to fight off these types of cost, whereas Microsoft now says that they have succeeded with demands from a secret court. FISA is a secret court with secret orders completely hidden from public view, and law enforcement...
That is a problem. Anytime you get government not reporting to the people and hidden from the people. And I know somebody will say, well, Rick, we have representatives that can see that. Well, that's because you're an idiot. Because representatives don't represent the people. They represent the government. They represent their entire, who they're connected to. They represent their party. They represent who is paying them. They do not represent the people. And we elect the same idiots up there that continue to treat the people like crap. But I digress. We're trying to stay on this FISA court.
Enforcement has lots of power here, but it's worth noting that there are very specific rules on spying inside the United States.
There's never a very specific rules of government. The government makes the rules, the government exempt themselves from the rules, and the government can break the rules, and guess what? The government won't enforce the rules on government.
It's rules that, honestly, few Americans actually know or understand.
And Jose, what kind of communications are we talking about here?
Well, we're really talking about everything. FISA lets this secret court approve spying on the private communication inside the U.S. with certain limitations. For example,
very few limitations. It's basically if you use the airways to communicate, either through smartphone, Alexa, your car, you name it, if they want you, they can get you. Sorry, I said the A word. So anything that you text, type, send, fax, private message, live stream, Skype, YouTube, the government gets it without a warrant under FISA. Not only do they not need a warrant, they snag it, they put it in a database, and then they say they don't view it unless they find a need. And the justification to view it is slim to none and slim left town. So that's how they were spying on Trump. That's how they got information that they wanted to do. And that's how they're going to spy on any American that they want. Not only can they seize it and keep it secret, but guess what? They can modify it. If the government wants to, they can put a piece of child porn on your computer. If you go online and next thing you know, your house is getting raided and they find child porn on your computer, and child porn is like the worst case. As soon as somebody says they have child porn, they're immediately no credibility. They have no voice. They're automatically assumed guilty. It's just outrageous the way the government has learned what the trigger words are to get people not to hold them accountable. And child porn is the word of the year, the word of the decade. That if you find child porn on somebody's computer, they are no good, they're guilty, they have no defense, and, you know, we should just hang them from a tree. And that's my big problem with government having access to computers. And shit, that was 10, 15 years ago when we were sending out, when I was working with FBI, we were sending out emails that when you open it, or even when it went in your inbox, it kind of set out a little virus or a little thing that every time you typed or emailed and came online, it notified us. So we knew when you were online, where you logged in, what your IP was, what your address was. And that was 10, 15 years ago. Imagine now trying to hide with a cell phone, a bank account, an ATM card, your computer talking to your dealership. You're just not going to hide. But let this guy give his list.
Example, if the government suspects that you are a terrorist or talking to a terrorist, if you're a spy or talking to a spy, they can tap into those communications. The talking into a spy thing is what could be what justified feds collecting the private conversations of former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page.
That's not could be. See, he's a left-wing CNN guy, so he doesn't want to say the government did wrong by going after Trump. I guarantee you, if they had went after Obama like this, CNN would be saying it's unlawful and the Republicans are out of control and they're using the government to spy on their political and it's horrible and the world's going to end and global warming. But because it was on Trump, now they're saying, well, you know, that could have been how it happened. Could have, maybe, would have, should have, could have, maybe, if and buts and coconuts.
Now, if you fit that profile, the government can collect your phone calls, emails, texts, instant messages, file transfers, video chats, basically anything. And so, for example, in this case, we're talking about Microsoft, that could have been Outlook emails, that could...
Okay, so that's kind of what a 702 is. Now remember, under the FISA warrant, we're talking about one section, section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Notice how, remember, I've always said this, anytime you get an act named by the government, it's absolutely the opposite and never what they name it. They name this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This is an American Surveillance Act. It's opposite of foreign intelligence. Because they name it that, they know the sheep will go, okay. It's kind of like the Patriot Act. Most idiots think, oh, it's Patriot, it's for the country, it's good. It's the exact opposite. It's government seizing power. It's government focusing on patriots as the enemy, as domestic terrorists. So anytime you hear an act named, automatically the hairs on the back of your head should stand up and you should go, what is the opposite of what they're calling it? Because that's what they do. So Trump was tweeting about how they use this and was saying, there was a couple comments in here. Let me find that. So right here it says it's to target communications of non-U.S. persons. Oh, doesn't that make you feel good? They're not going to go after you pesky tax-paying citizens. They're only going to go after the bad guys from other countries. Oh, we should trust our government. Hell, we should just give them all our guns. They'll protect us. U.S. persons located outside the United States in foreign intelligence purposes. What exactly that mean? Including analysis, let's see. Including foreign threats. They don't need foreign threats. They collect it. That's the problem is they collect everything. That's why they say the 30,000 emails that Hillary went missing, the NSA has those. And I've said this before, the NSA, people think the NSA is a civilian organization. It's run by the military. There's usually a general or an admiral that's in charge of the NSA. So the military runs the NSA, but they do a lot of civilian stuff. You know, people will go, what about Pais Comitatus? Rick, military can't enforce civilian law. Well, that's because you're an idiot and you believe what the government and the news media tells you. Because I'm telling you, the NSA, people think is a civilian agency, and they're looking out for it's run by the military. So, matter of fact, one of the admirals just got fired in this clip I'm going to show you. Let's see here. So again, they put, without a warrant, we can get phone calls and emails of non-American ISIS member. Let's use the term ISIS. Let's use terrorists. Let's use public safety, national security. Those are all great words to get people to believe that the FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Act, yeah, let's use all these words and people won't realize that we've just made a bill and a law that says we can seize everything every American speaks, writes, sends, emails, communicates. We can seize it, and we'll keep it for later in case we need it for the mean foreign national security. Now they say the people targeted by the 702 collection don't have constitutional protections that require a warrant. Well, that's not true. If they're going after foreign intelligence, it doesn't. But when they seize all of American stuff, we do have constitutional protections. Bro, no, Rick, it's Foreign Intelligence Act. Just read the name, Rick. So when asked, does it target U.S. citizens? The short answer is no. That means yes. Remember, the government is answering this. FISA Section 2 is not bulk collection. BS. It absolutely is bulk collection. It cannot be used to target Americans or anyone of any nationality who is within the United States. Really? Then how did they get Trump? How did they get all of the emails on the people that they got to turn? How did they get all that? What? Because they lie. Because it's BS. 702 U.S. citizens, not only are they not allowed to be targets, but the statute explicitly bars backdoor targeting. Well, guess what? They're not following this. And this video I'm about to go to tells you, and this is a U.S. attorney that's going to be talking to you, about how they're using this backdoor because they're the government and they can. So I know I went long on 14 minutes. I haven't even got to the real meat and potatoes. If you don't want to listen to me, go listen to this video because this should open up your eyes. I mean, this is a great ex-U.S. attorney. I think he was in D.C. and he spells it out pretty damn good.
Morning. Joining us now, Joe DeGeneva, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, thanks for joining us this morning.
Happy Memorial Day, and remember all our fallen heroes.
Absolutely. Joe, the president made a big announcement. He authorized Attorney General Bill Barr to declassify all materials related to the Russia investigation. So where is it? Where is it? How come we haven't had anything yet?
Full-scale war. Let me tell you exactly what's going on here. This is very important for the listeners. When Bill Barr became Attorney General, the president said, see if you can get to the bottom of what happened during the campaign. Bill Barr tried to do that, and you will recall from his interview with Fox, he said he now had more questions than he had when he started. Chris Wray, the current FBI director, was stonewalling the current Attorney General, Bill Barr, on disclosure of certain information about FBI conduct.
Okay, this is huge because, remember, Mueller was in charge of the FBI. He turned the reins over to Comey, and then Comey got fired, and now the director is the one appointed by Trump, and he's still protecting the FBI because government protects government. And when you get these loyal appointees, they are more concerned about protecting their organization. I crack on a CHP about all that. They're the worst organization in the world, but nobody will talk about it because that is blasphemy in the CHP. Well, in government and in the FBI, it's the same way. The current guy that was appointed by Trump is refusing to give information that discredits Comey and Mueller when they were in there getting these illegal 702s, and they're saying no. Man, I'm telling you, if I was Trump, I'd be like, dude, I appointed you and I will fire you if I hear one more time that you're not cooperating. Remember, the FBI works for the Attorney General. The Attorney General is going to them and saying, I need this information, and the FBI director saying, no, I'm not giving it to you. Are you freaking kidding me?
It got very, very heated. And Gina Haspel, the CIA director, was also resisting disclosure of certain information. Barr got fed up, went to the president and said, Mr. President, I can't answer your question, and here's why. And the president said, fine. 24 hours later, the order came out. This is full-scale war between the Attorney General of the United States and, believe it or not, another FBI director who thinks he's James Comey. Christopher Wray is a disaster. He's an unmitigated disaster. But I want you to just think about this. Look at two newspaper headlines. May 24th, Washington Post, unease as Barr's power grows. Carryover headline, current former officials fear distortion of FBI, CIA's work. Next day, New York Times, order to review secrets pits CIA versus Justice Department.
Okay, so this is just, he's pointing out that the left-wing media, as soon as they know that you're getting close to uncovering their illegal acts of the left-wing party, they come out and start attacking with names and power and attacking you to Trump. I'm surprised they haven't called him a racist yet. They can't play the race card because both the guys in the fight, all the directors and the attorney are all white. So they can't throw out, they're being racist. So now they're throwing out, it's a power grab. He's gaining power. Trump's, Kennedy, which the left who loves, JFK, such a great president, he made his brother attorney general. Do you think he had some clout with the, do you think the attorney general was ever going to find anything against his brother? Well, if you do, you're an idiot.
Order to review secrets sets up power struggle. You are watching the quintessential Washington power battle. And here's the problem for the agencies, the FBI and the CIA. They have one disadvantage. They can leak to the Post and the Times, but they do not have subpoena power, and Bill Barr does. We are headed toward a gigantic fight.
So for those who don't understand a subpoena is basically a warrant. It's a court order. It's the same thing. If I go get a warrant and I get a judge to sign it as a cop and I serve that warrant and say I need these documents, you have to give it to me per that court order, per that warrant. Well, a subpoena is the same thing, and it's issued by the DA's office or the Attorney General's office or any appointed legal attorney that's working for the government. They have subpoena power. They can issue a subpoena without going to a judge, and it has the same weight and same power as a warrant. So now Barr can issue them subpoenas, and if they don't follow, they're committing criminal acts. The FBI and CIA can't issue subpoenas. That's what he's alluding to.
The intelligence community, which includes the FBI, is in full resistance to disclosing what they did during the presidential campaign. But here's the other problem they have, and they're very fearful of. The FISA court has already found that there was political spying going on starting in 2012, not
2012, the FISA court was political spying. Guess who was director of the FBI? Mr. Mueller, the same one that just did this 2-year investigation, $70 million, hired all his left-wing lawyers to go on a witch hunt for Trump and didn't find anything. And now he's insinuating, well, even if we would have found something, we couldn't have charged him, so he's probably still guilty. Unfreaking believable. The FISA court, the secret court that has no oversight, that has secret warrants, was actually engaged in political warrants and seizing information on political opponents. Absolutely outrageous. This is the criminal conspiracy of the freaking decade or century.
15, not 16, 2012. Why was that spying going on in the Obama administration? The FBI and the CIA desperately fear that if these disclosures become publicly known in a wide-ranging way, their powers may be cut back, FISA may be restricted, and some additional people may go to prison.
Somebody needs to go to prison. FISA does need to be cut back and reined in, if not canceled, and those things should happen. But will they?
This Christopher Wray is now standing in the way of history. Make no mistake about it. Christopher Wray has become an enemy of the people.
Joe, you're saying some pretty big things, and the one, of course, that you obviously acknowledge is the biggest is this battle between.
Attorney General was unable to get the information that he needed to answer the questions of the President of the United States. Remember what this is. This is the President of the United States.
And I want you to remember, the guy talking here is not just some hack. He was a U.S. attorney in D.C., the most corrupt. I mean, that's a major seat. He did some serious investigations, so he knows what the hell he's talking about.
Asking his new Attorney General with full power to find out what went on. The FBI director is saying, no, you're not going to be able to find out all that's going on. So that happened over a period of time, and eventually, Bill Barr is a very serious lawyer. He's not the kind of guy who loses his temper. This was not the sort of thing where there would be a blow-up. This would be, fine, Chris, if that's what you want. Now, I'm just telling you, this is my impression from everything that between Bill Barr and Chris Wray per se, although that is happening. Look at the CIA, who is a litigator and who has subpoena power. If these people resist, if they get to the point where they will not, for example, listen to this. Now, just think about this, if you will, for a minute. The New York Times, in its story, and the Washington Post, in its story, going crazy over this power being devolved to Barr, say that one of the things that the CIA is really worried about is that their key informant, who's very close to Vladimir Putin, may be revealed. Okay, now, just ask.
Which is actually a crime. I can't believe somebody leaked to the two left-wing posts. Who do you think leaked that? They leaked information that they have a source very close on the inside of Putin. Now, if Putin hears this, which he does, he's got people listening and watching our news, just like we have people watching their news, he's going to look at his inner circle and start doing digging and checking of phone records, who's contacting who's meeting with who. He might have all his inner staff start being followed. Now he has just jeopardized or cut off a major source that we could have had on another country in the name of not losing power. That's what government does. CIA, FBI does not give a damn about the people. They don't care about the law, and they don't care about the Constitution. They care about growing and maintaining power. That's why I'm always anti-government. People are like, Rick, what did the government do to you? Why do you hate them so much? I understand the damage government can do. Look at Venezuela. 4 years ago, give us your guns, we'll protect you, everything's free. Life was great, and now they're getting shot in the street and prostituting their kids so they can eat. I know what government does when they get power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's been around for years for a reason. It's not because it's cute and somebody just wanted to make it up and say it. It's because it's damn true. That's how most things are, repeated.
Ask yourself this question. If you really thought that this source was so important, would you tell the New York Times
Bingo.
and the Washington Post? Do you think that Putin and his people don't know at this point who that person is, since there are already stories written about it in 2018? This is so stupid what the agency and the FBI are doing. They are literally at war with the President of the United States and his Attorney General. This is unbelievable. And, I tell people, read your papers carefully, and you've got to follow this. This is as big as it gets in a democracy.
Joe, on who?
Cases about American citizens. They are called Section 702 queries. 702 is a section of the National Security Act which allows searches under FISA for certain information about Americans. But it must be minimized and it must be kept very, very secret. In fact, those inquiries made by 4 FBI contractors were illegal.
That's huge. They're using FISA. FISA gave them information that they seized through FISA without a warrant on American citizens, and they have contractors, not members of the government. They have contractors requesting these 702s on Americans, and we want all their emails, all their phone calls, all their documents, all the files they sent. Outrageous.
Those queries were made about Americans. Those queries were used to unmask Americans. Those queries were then used to use the unmasked information to leak information to the press about Americans. This is what they really fear.
Joe, want to talk to you about FISA warrants, though. Columbia. Joe talks about Carter Page, George Papadopoulos. Now, we never knew that anyone other than Carter Page had FISA warrants taken out against him. So there were 4 now that we know about.
Don't conclude that. First of all, you have 2 dumb people talking to each other. You have Sheila Jackson Lee, who is a total idiot and who really is a very, very disturbed person. I mean, her brain is just... But also Loretta Lynch, who could be the dumbest attorney general in the history of the United States.
Meets what Bill Clinton on the tarmac thinking nobody
what they
will find
may
out.
have been referring to unwittingly are what I just discussed. Illegal surveillance on some of these people by these queries. What happens is when you go into a 702 database, you get everything. Phone calls, text messages, emails, everything. Remember, the National Security Agency scoops up everything. And by the way, they have Hillary Clinton's 30,000 deleted emails at NSA, if anybody wants to get them. And I'm sure that Huber and John Durham are going to get them. Here's the deal. We don't know if there were other FISAs. We do know that there was extensive illegal spying by going into these databases at NSA. What probably they're referring to is that these other people, other than Carter Page, were spied on by using NSA databases without authority, by using contractors. And by the way, Adam Schiff knows all of this. That's why he is fighting so desperately to have everybody stop. Because the great scandal is not what happened in 2016, although that is a great scandal. It's what happened starting in 2012 when they were illegally accessing NSA data. By the way, anybody who wants to know about this can read the FISA court opinion of April 26, 2016, 17 in which this is all discussed. This is not something that's a surprise to anybody. That's what the FISA court was furious about. That's why they reprimand, and that's why Ash Carter and James Clapper tried to fire Mike Rogers, the head of the NSA, who discovered all of this.
Mike Rogers, he's in charge of the NSA. You just heard him. They tried to fire him. Admiral. He's an admiral. I think he quit. I don't know if they fired him.
And revealed it to the FISA court. This is what Schiff and the Democrats are fighting against. They fear desperately that what will happen is all of this illegal spying from 2012, which nobody has reported on except Marketplace and Sundance, the conservative treehouse, they will find out and it will become a much bigger story. Now, of course, the press will be totally disinterested in this. And that's why what Barr is doing is so important, because the legal conclusions that he reaches will be history.
Joe, you said those 2012 FISA abuses were the source of leaks to the press.
These are not FISA abuses. These are NSA database abuses.
Okay. And okay, so I'm sorry, but you mentioned FISA powers though when you were explaining it. No.
Yes, you're right. It's under that statute that you are allowed to make these inquiries if you have a proper footing.
Just making sure I heard you correctly. Okay, so when those 2012 abuses you said were used as a pretext to leak information to the press, who were they targeting, the 2012 abuses?
Politicians, opponents of the Obama administration. How do you think Samantha Power got 250 names? How do you think she was able to seek the unmasking of that many people? She says it wasn't she that did it. She says someone did it in her name. Now, who do you think made 250 queries of NSA databases in her name? Mm-hmm. It was the 4 contractors who were working for the FBI.
Out freaking outrageous. I'll put a link to this in the description. Really good interview. I wish more people kind of knew how dangerous this FISA is and how quickly they're seizing freedoms and ignoring the Constitution. But, man, I say it on every video, buy more guns and ammo and be prepared to defend yourself, because the people in Venezuela, they gave their guns to the government, and take a look at them. They're getting shot in the street by the same government that said, give us your guns, we'll protect you. All right, we'll end that there.